I spent 10 hours going through the Overemployment subreddit and everything that I could find on the internet about people working 2 jobs or more at the same time, all to find every job that people are overemployed with. And what I came up with is this list, which was not as interesting as I thought it would be. But what did shock me was the jobs that showed up over and over again. In this video, we will talk through the 5 jobs that practically beg for overemployment and go through why they work so well for overemployment, with number 1 being the job that I myself was overemployed with for 4 years. And for each one of these jobs, we will give it a score based on the 5 criteria for an overemployed job, with the first being an asynchronous workload. Can you work on your own schedule? Number 2, outcome focused. Are you judged based on the number of hours you put in or the results? Number 3, the batching potential, meaning can you stack similar tasks and work them all at once? Number 4, the meeting load. This one's obvious. To have multiple jobs, you can't be swamped with meetings for the whole day. And number 5, what I'm calling the technical complexity buffer, which is basically, do others struggle to estimate how long a task will actually take you? Now let's get into the first job, a Scrum Master. Now, if you don't know what a Scrum Master is, it's basically a babysitter for agile teams. They keep the team aligned, they make sure to get rid of any roadblocks, and they ensure that people show up to the required meetings. Now, if we take a look at our matrix, an asynchronous workload, for the most part, yes, but they do have to show up to all of those regularly scheduled meetings, which we'll discuss in a little. So sort of. Number 2, yes, they are outcome focused, and absolutely, I think the batching potential for Scrum Masters might be the highest out of any of these jobs. You can create templates and systems which basically let you duplicate the effort across many jobs. This allows you to front load that work effort and then just cruise along answering any questions that people have and attending the meetings, which leads us to the meetings. And I think there are a lot of meetings for a Scrum Master, and usually you're required to run those meetings, which means that you can't be in more than one meeting at the same time. For instance, you have to run sprint planning, you have to do a daily Scrum call, and you have to do retrospectives at least. So I would say no, it doesn't have few meetings. And then the technical complexity buffer. Yeah, I think people seriously overestimate how much work it takes to be a Scrum Master, particularly because a lot of the work is in managing the backlog or in the compliance related things that nobody feels like doing. I mean, it feels like half of your job would be clicking through forms or filling out fields for a mass number of tickets, which looks intimidating from the outside, but if you schedule some time for it and just knock through it, it's really not that bad. And that brings us to the second job, which is a technical writer. And I was kind of shocked. I didn't realize that technical writers still exist as a job. Kind of felt like that was maybe outdated, but it is very much still a thing. And basically their job is to spell out things in a way that your mom would understand. And this is usually done in a Google Doc, which no one will look at until something breaks. Now, does it have an asynchronous workload? Absolutely it does. There is a discrete workload which you are told to do, and you can do it basically whenever you want. Yes, it is outcome focused, and I'm realizing that every job on this list probably will be. And the potential for batching here is insane. You're having to write the same type of document over and over again, so if you have a template or if you just schedule enough time and let the task stack up, you can bang it out all in a day and then deliver it later in a week. Now for the meeting load, relatively low. Usually this is a job that doesn't have an insane amount of oversight on it, particularly because nobody's really reading the documents or looking through them unless something breaks. Now you'll still have to go to the daily stand-up call just to say what you're doing, but outside of that, there shouldn't be any helicopter parents. And for the technical complexity buffer, 100% there is, particularly because writing is painful and people are generally not good at it. That confusion buys you time, which takes us into our next role, a QA tester. Your job is to break the product in every way possible and then assign those issues to be fixed by developers. Now, for the most part, you can create your own schedule, but usually you're at the whims of a developer to actually give you the work so then you can break it. So I would say kind of. And absolutely, it is outcome focused. And the batching potential here is the highest out of any job we have, and even more so if you have a wealth of experience in QA testing. This is the kind of role that benefits a lot from time on the job because you can build your test cases ahead of time and you tend to know exactly how the software or product that you work with will break. Then you can tell the developers about that so you can avoid it even coming to you in the first place. Now, along with that, QA automation tools are incredibly strong, and if you know how to build them properly, all you really have to do is tell people what you did and let the system run in the background. Now, outside of the daily Scrum calls and the occasional fire call, you should have a relatively low meeting load. And the technical complexity buffer is huge because most people have no idea what testing even is or how long it takes. So you can bake in and set people's expectations that it takes an extremely long time. One guy I read about built a test suite with automation tools and was able to duplicate it for 2 jobs. And basically all he had to do then was run the tool every time a ticket was given to him and report exactly what it found. And outside of that, he just played video games. That's technical leverage. Invest once and then print forever. If only that was possible with the next job, a software developer. You all knew this was coming. Feel like the bedrock of overemployment is built off the back of software developers. That being said, you need to ensure that you're at the right company. A startup probably won't work. And if you're working for a big tech company, that's probably not going to happen either, since they are so actively monitoring and aware of what each developer is doing. But if you're working for companies like banks or insurance firms, perfection. Now, when it comes to an asynchronous workload, absolutely, more so than any other job, people understand that developers need a wealth of time to bang out their work, and they shouldn't be interrupting you frequently. That again, if you work for the right company. Outcome focused, for the most part, yes. But actually in this case, many software developer jobs could be in the form of a contract, but that doesn't mean that you couldn't be working multiple contracts at the same time. So I will say generally, yes. And as far as meetings, it should be generally pretty low, where you go to a stand-up call and then you're probably on call for fires or any issues that you have. But generally, particularly if you're not a super senior developer, your meeting load should be pretty quaint. And as far as technical complexity, absolutely. That being said, the other developers on your team will know exactly how hard it is, but I feel like today, in the age of AI, if you're able to use the tools properly and become what people would call a 10x developer, then you can still feign being relatively junior while producing in a much higher volume with much less effort. And generally, very good developers, people have no idea how they do it, and it looks like they are moving mountains, but really they're just tapping into a treasure trove of issues that they've ran into in the past. Now finally, the job that I used to reach financial freedom through overemployment. Business analyst, product owner, and product management, sort of. Now, I started off my career as a business analyst, and this was the bedrock of my overemployment. And that is such a great job because people have no idea what you do, and even you have no idea what you do. You are just analyzing business. And as far as an asynchronous workload, for the most part, yeah. As a product owner, there are a little more demands on your time as there's more people reporting to you or more checks and balances to go through for your workload. But for the most part, yes. Outcome focused, you got that big hoss. And the batching potential, I found it to an insane degree. I would just let the tasks stack up, schedule a solid 3-hour block, bang through all of them, deliver them spaced out through the week, and then just cruise and answer any questions that came up. And as far as meetings, I found that it was incredibly low. I would go to a stand-up and then maybe a couple other meetings throughout the week. Now, that being said, for product owners or even product management, you will have more meetings, but even so, it's still not an insane amount of meetings, particularly if you set the expectations right, and particularly if you're able to get people to think that you're busy by blocking off huge chunks in your calendar or doing other tactics that we discuss on this channel, your meeting load won't be insane. And usually you're required to host a couple of high visibility calls, which then make you look like you're valuable to the company. And the technical complexity buffer is impossible to estimate because even you don't know what you're doing. It's perfect. And that all being said, your job title doesn't matter as much as the company that you work for. Because even the best job isn't overemployment ready straight out of the box. You need a strategy to get it ready for overemployment. But lucky you, I made just that video walking through my stealth strategy, which you can use to turn any job into an overemployment opportunity. Check it out. Thanks for watching, and do subscribe. I would appreciate it.